Okay, for those of you who saw Kitchen Reorganization take 1 and take 2, here is take 3. So, as you might recall, if you watched the first and the second video, in the middle of reorganizing my kitchen to address some problems that I had detected, I discovered that the plate shelf on the far wall was beginning to show signs of pulling away from the wall to which it's attached. The problem being that we couldn't put really long screws in because there was a pocket door behind there. So I realized that those plates were far too heavy for that shelf, which we had thought they might be. And I also had the issue that I wanted to move the food from under the refrigerator, primarily because it was close to the bathroom, and since there's a composting toilet in the bathroom, I didn't want the food right next to that. I'm sure it was not really a hygiene problem, but it was just the thought of it bothered me. So I took the plates off that shelf, and they are now up there above the towel cabinet. So I'll give you a little tour of how I reorganized. I didn't change this first cupboard. It still has the trash in the bucket. And as I mentioned, I had thought of putting food in the cabinet where the hot water heater is. And that's what I ended up doing. Those are canned goods and jar goods, and they work in there fairly well. So the biggest change is I took those wire shelves off of the counter. Those had been there since I moved in, and they were useful and they worked, but I felt they were a little overbearing on the counter. I currently have my trivets under the shelf there, but I think they will probably end up going down there, but I'm not really sure. Trying not to move this around too much. I want it to be in focus. So the big change is, as I said, that's where all the food is. That was previously under there, other than those bottles and cans which you saw in this cupboard. So that looks like a lot, but it is lighter than the plates, and it's also pushed back to the wall, so most of its weight is distributed differently than when the heavy plates were there. So I did make use of the Lazy Susan after all, and the jars that I didn't want to throw away. That Beets jar has sugar in it, and up there there's a jar which has my candied ginger in it. Behind the stove are a few spices, and in that white box there are more brackets like this, and I will have somebody put those in that spot. Before, when I had the wire trays on here, or the wire racks on here, I couldn't put the spices all the way across. That's why I had extra rack holders and spices, so those will go up on that nice tiny house rack for spices that my son gave me for Christmas. Another change I made was I took the coffee pot off of this shelf that you see here. I didn't really like it on the shelf, but it was on there because there was nowhere else to put it. I didn't like it because the burner on which it sits is sort of big and clunky, and it was a little cumbersome on there. So as I said, I have my tile trivets there, but I don't really like them there. I just had to figure out where to put them. So the changes here, you see my chamois there only because I've been climbing. So I previously had that red box and that red lidded box had extra tools in them, along with a drawer over here. I consolidated all of those things into the metal drawer cabinet. I don't know what you call that. That used to have food in it. It now has hardware things. And I eliminated that box. The red lidded plastic box has some extra things in it that I think are probably screws and hooks and stuff that could be thrown away. I still have the world's largest collection of plastic bags, but at least they're neat and tidy. I use the wire racks to help organize the towels and sheets so that they're not all falling out every time I get one, and the plates are up there. Ever since we put the jacks under the house, we haven't had as much vibration problem, and I think that will work. I'll do some laundry tomorrow and find out. Last but not least, I did in fact take half of what was in this drawer and put it in this drawer, and now I can, those things went into that little stand there. So now I have all my hardware and laundry and cleaning products under here, and I don't care if they're close to the composting toilet. My towels are easier to access without pulling the whole stack down. And my food is away from the bathroom, there, and there. And the shelf is not as challenged as it was, and I didn't have to build a cupboard. I don't really want a cupboard, although I would still consider it. That's a little messy, but easier for me to access than it would be if I had to open a cupboard. If I did do a cupboard, I would probably do sliding doors, because I wouldn't want to open them out into the room. But I'm going to live with this shelf for a while and see if I like it, especially after I have the rest of the spices up. So just in case you were wondering if it's going to work out to have all the plates up there, the dishes you see on this shelf are the dishes that I actually use every day. So the other plates I just use when there's somebody here and I need to serve more than one person. Or if I'm having a big dinner, which I never do for myself. So it's really not an issue. And the Lazy Susan will be useful after all. And I think it looks a little bit better than it did before. So thank you for watching Kitchen Reorganization Take 3 and sharing a little of my tiny life. And I'll see you next time.